Cut. Take two. Oh, okay. But we looked at a match from the Southern Showdown: Justice Floyd versus Malik Green, two top-rated fighters from last year. And what were your thoughts? What was good? What was bad?
Man,
The-
I love watching Justice. Like the way he bounces and moves, like he just flows and floats
right.
um through the round. It was really good. I love the explosiveness of Malik. Just I mean he goes from like here to there, really fast. Great off the line. It was really interesting to see him play a pressure game. I think that's where he had a lot of success with Justice, was kind of putting pressure and making him kind of fight on his heels a little bit.
Okay. And I noticed Justice like used the ring very well. It looked like he would. He's known for doing that. I think he's known for ducking, dodging, and he when he did so, he was just very willing to be on the very outside of the ring. Might be
Yeah.
something I want to try because I'm often the smaller fighter. I haven't fought since last June, but I've been talking myself into maybe fighting some. And yeah, he was just very much on the outside. It's also interesting to me to see him kick. I feel like I don't know what it is. I feel like people kick less now than they used to. Maybe that's maybe a personal bias.
I feel like that's a fair assessment though.
Okay. Um.
Because I remember like when I was a kid, which it's different when you're a kid versus an adult. Like your body kind of works different. Um, but when I was a kid, it seemed like everybody was kicking all the time, and
Mhm.
then now everybody's blitzing all the time and timing the kicks.
Right. Well, I felt like we had a great mix because we did blitz a lot and we also kicked a
Mm,
lot. And now I feel like so many
right.
people use kicks as a secondary tool.
I would agree with that. Man, I remember the first tournaments that I went to, which I'm not sure if it was just different or if it was like the times. But my first tournaments that I went to, everything was 1 point and it was the first to 3 points. And that was every fight, all divisions. It was just everything's 1 point, 3 points. And then
Right.
they
I remember
came up
that.
with, yeah, and then it was like the first to five or in 2 minute time limit.
I feel like was that black belts? Were they maybe always first to five? I can't
I'm
remember
not
clearly.
I'm not sure. I remember I think I was a blue belt.
Okay.
I think it was a blue belt tournament. It was like the first tournament of the season, and they made this big announcement. Like they set us all down in these lines. Back when I think it was a dojo tournament we went to, and you lined up with your school, and they saw which
Right.
school had the most competitors.
Right.
Um, and then they made this big announcement that you have a 2 minute time limit. It's the first to five, and kicks to the head were now 2 points,
Okay.
and everything else was one. And it was like, wow, like that hook kick come out immediately. I was like, that's so cool. I get to kick people in the head and get 2 points for it. Like, sign me up, you know?
Yeah. Now that you say that, that is kind of crazy that you get more points, and I still feel like people kick less.
Yeah.
Huh. There's not enough there're not enough movies anymore. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are not around to make it cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We need some more Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Well, they still have Power Rangers. We need some more Power Rangers that actually do karate.
Okay, so back to the fight. So
Mm,
we have kicking, we have ring usage, we have what I look at Malik and just explosiveness, like we talked about many times, super explosive. But I feel like his overall style feels just super modern. Whereas, like I said,
yeah.
some of Justice's feels like it is modern and very modern, but it also
Mm,
feels like it's more kick oriented than I'm used to seeing now. So
yeah. And it's really cool to see too. I became very aware when I was watching the fight. I think there was one point, Justice was down by like 3 points, maybe.
okay,
um in the middle, like when Malik started to kind of pull ahead a little bit and then Justice kind of like caught right back up. But he was very relaxed the whole time. Like
mm,
he just still had that confidence about him. It didn't let him shake him. It was
Mm.
true champion mentality there. Which is, man, it's a great tool to have in that toolbox. To be able to, like, sometimes you go in and you hit the guy and you're like, yeah, and then sometimes you get hit and it'll kind of throw you off your game a little bit. But to be able to get hit and then just kind of like, oh no, it's a match. The 1 point's not the match. It's just a point in the match. But I've seen a lot of guys kind of get shook by that, and then you start playing the catch up game and things like that, and it did not seem to phase him from the outside looking in. Don't know what's going on in his head, but he seemed very in control and relaxed the whole time. Justice did.
And then he chose though Justice to go to overtime. He was very conscious of how much time is left, and he clearly made a
Yeah,
decision not to press that.
yeah, yeah, and as soon as that happened, I was like, wow, what a great idea, what a great concept. Because
But when did
the
he do
entire
that?
time, do I now?
But like, so if he wanted to go to overtime,
Hmm.
presumably Willie didn't want to go to overtime. I mean, both fighters probably don't want the same thing.
Right. So then that's when it becomes interesting, right? That's when it becomes the good chess match. Does Malik all of a sudden like try to score and to keep it from going into overtime and potentially leave himself open? Or does Justice try to like score or try to keep distance and look for an opening?
But
It comes down to who gets to implement their game plan first or what their desire is.
but like, what things do you think may have gone into Justice's decision? Because like Malik had scored the last point. Maybe he had some momentum. Maybe
Hmm.
if you're, I'm not, I don't know what goes. I don't do that very well. I don't really track time in the match all that well.
Right.
And we were
Um,
having this conversation, sort of having a similar conversation recently with someone else, but like I don't know what goes into that decision.
Man, I think it probably at that level, it probably comes down to how you're feeling in that moment.
Hmm.
Um, Justice maintained his composure the entire time he was down for that like 30-second, 40-second stretch there. So I think just maintaining that and not being frantic and not trying to push anything, was probably like, I mean, me projecting and just kind of like putting myself in that position.
Right,
I think that might have been what he was thinking. Like, this is what got me caught up. This is what got me the lead. And why don't fix what's not broken.
right. So
Just stick with it.
the
And I
same
was
mindset.
pretty, yeah, yeah, just maintaining that same mindset. And I didn't realize like when they tied and they're getting ready to go into sudden death, they went ahead and went to their coaches for a second. And so in doing that, I really kind of like that because it kind of disengages it, and then you come back in. It almost makes me wish that if it instead of sudden victory and sudden death, instead of being first point wins, like it would be really cool if we could break, players go to their coaches and then come back for another 30 seconds, or like a little
Right,
half round or
right.
something, just to kind of see what adjustments can be made. But I'm a fan of several different combat styles, and I really wish that, I love double elimination. I think that that's a great thing. But I almost kind of wish that there were rounds to karate. But then, you don't want to be there all day fighting.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you have 10, 15, 20 people in your division and you're doing several rounds with double elimination, you have a week-long tournament.
Right. Um. So the other fight we looked at was the 40 plus fight from the War Angel Challenge. It was Jimmy Moore and oh, I forget the other guy's name. So it is Jimmy Moore versus Lorenzo, and again, yeah. Um, he, go ahead. He's
I
fit.
yeah, I'm sure I've seen Jimmy fight a few times. I kind of had to have, different tournaments and stuff. But I think this was the first time that I've actually like watched him fight and like retained information that I was processing. And he did a really great job of
He looks amazing.
having a, yeah, I mean,
He's
it was
50
a,
years
a
old.
good. Yeah, right. Like I mean, he had a really great threatening kick and a really dominant blitz, and he mixed the two seamlessly very well. It kind of keeps you guessing and on your toes. Uh, I was kind of a fan of Lorenzo's stance because he had his hands, and his hands were very movy and flowy,
Okay.
just kind of ready. And I thought that was a really cool thing. Wanted to see him kind of like do a little bit more with it. It seemed like towards the end of the fight, he was more just kind of like using his hands out of a habit versus kind of like using it to set up something or to create an opening. Um, but man, that was a good fight too.
Yeah, Jimmy used a variety of techniques, varied his timing, and just moved very well. And I saw him at the Great Southeast a couple weeks ago. Um, I, he he beat Keith Green, who has phenomenal record in history. So Jimmy, it was Jimmy's day. Unless I missed something in that fight, I'm pretty sure he walked away with the win there. And yeah,
Man, it was awesome. Like Jimmy's blitz just off the line was really good. But it was also that he threw a spin hook kick in there, and then there was a jump spin crescent kick in there too. Um, and just to
the,
be able to
the,
move that well and seamless, like, is great, you know?
yeah, yeah. And the hook kick, the back kick landed.
Hmm.
No. Um. Okay, so we also watched the video of Brian Penna doing the interview for the CMAO, the Carolina Martial Arts Open, a week from
It's
Saturday,
come,
right?
yes, yeah, not this weekend, next weekend. With it being currently today's Tuesday, that's what, 10 days away? No, 9 days.
Right.
7? Can't be 7 because that's a week. Ignore me.
10, 10, 11, something, 10 days.
I, I actually, today at work, I was listening to podcasts and I was just I was in the mood for some karate podcast. And I remembered, the Legends of Carolina Martial Arts podcast that Brian Penna put out
Okay, right.
a couple years ago. Shout out to that because there's a whole lot of legends that I grew up with that I get to kind of like, as a child, I look up to them. And then as an adult, I get to hear and understand better, and like you get to hear their stories and stuff. But today, I actually listened to the Brian Penna podcast. He was interviewed by Magic Johnson, and he talked about his upbringing, his journey in martial arts, his mindset when he was a competitor versus his mindset to today, and becoming a father, and um, just the kind of the inside workings of his brain and how his characters developed and things like that. And it was really interesting to see and hear, and it kind of like it was a good thing to listen to. It was about, I think it was 40 minutes long, but it was a pretty good thing to listen to around this season of the Carolina Martial Arts Open to kind of get ready to go to it. I think I'm gonna go down and see everybody.
Nice, nice. Happy to
Oh,
hear you're going. I'm definitely going. I may fight. I don't know. Like I said, it'll be the first time in almost a year, and it's
I
just
mean, it
really.
is May, so you may as well fight.
Oh boy. We've had Matthew Anderson on this podcast, and you're not going to beat him in the workplace. he is
I know.
he is
I'm a
very
strong second.
yeah. That's fair. Okay. Uh, um. Yeah. So it's a little awkward. Like you want to be part of like sport karate, and it's like maybe put some podcasts out, maybe tag along to tournaments, and then at some point it's just like, well, you feel like you're tagging along, so maybe I will fight. Like never competing is a weird thing, maybe. Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I I was thinking about this today too when I was like realizing that I'm gonna go to I kind of decided I'm going to the Carolina Martial Arts Open today.
okay,
I was like, there's no excuse not to go. I have people that I would love to see that I haven't got to see. That's a great excuse. I have the time to go that weekend, so I might as well just go. And then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, wow, I've here lately the past like probably 5, 10 years, probably about 5 years, definitely past 5 years. I've gone to more tournaments and not competed than I've gone to tournaments and competed.
Right.
And
That's wild. That's been me. I've been to 3 or 4 in the last 8 months and just not competed.
yeah, it's with the Carolina Martial Arts Open, it's a bigger tournament, and I always get very anxious and nervous.
Right.
Um, and just kind of like, what am I doing? Why am I going if I'm not competing? But um, I just have social anxiety as well. So, as soon
Right.
as I get there and see friends
Tourna-
and stuff, it'll feel better.
Tournaments are draining for me. Even if I know people around, I look up afterwards and it's just like that was a lot of people for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we were there for 4 years ago, 3 years ago. We did the team fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
I became a real. A, a few weeks ago, I saw Keith Green at the Great Southeast, and I said, "I saw you paired up against Justice." And he was like, "Yeah, I wasn't supposed to be there," or something like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, I tried that. It didn't turn out well," and I got a big laugh out of that. That was
It's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's ironic, I guess. Um, because that whole incident was all out, like using the ring and circling on the outside, and you both were kind of doing that, and it's just y'all both ended up going the same direction. um
yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. Like, I should have just bowed out because I didn't know who he was, and
mhm.
I just started back after a very long time away from karate, and we were 22 points behind, I think.
Yeah, you're welcome for a lot of those. That was all me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Man. Mm,
Yeah, I went out, and that was that whole I that it was so wild. That was the first time I really kind of had the whole. I've done this for a long time, and I was fighting Lucas, and I was like, man, like I was bouncing there in the ring and having this whole out of body experience where I was like, this kid was 5 bouncing across from me when I was a teenager, and learning karate together, and just like now all of a sudden, like I'm not like looking at a 5-year-old, I'm looking at a grown man. It's got the left leg that goes real crazy, and he can
yeah,
stand on his own head if he wanted to.
you taught, you
um
helped teach him how to fight. No good deed goes unpunished.
right. Yeah,
Thank
I'll
everyone for
put it.
watching.
Oh, yeah.
The videos are on the mat, and you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'll work on my setup, and that way I'm not gonna be like all down
Uh,
here next time.
yeah, we're gonna notch out the production values just a tiny bit. Thanks for watching.